Hello everyone, and welcome to the Student Game Expo. This event is hosted by Orbis Leadership and Management and is aimed to exhibit games made by students in the Game Design Bachelor's and Master's programs at Full Sail University. I'm Tyler, and this is Deep.
Hey.
We're producers at Orbis, and today we'll be seeing Your Human is Sick by CelleC Games, and Guillermo is going to present it to us.
All right, sounds good. So I'll just start a new game here. So your humanistic is basically an adventure game that is set inside the human body. So the biggest thing here is that you'll be going through different dungeons and you'll be literally fighting against virus and bacteria so you can make your body healthy again. So it was really inspired by the Legends of Zelda, the remake for Link's Awakening. So the game started to be planned around the time that the remake was announced or released, around that time. And we tried to make an educational game that had the gameplay first approach. So studying the immune system, it kind of makes sense to make an adventure game about it. So we started planning Your Human is Sick, and a little bit more than 4 months later, the game was released on Steam.
Nice.
So, yeah, that was the intro cutscene, and now you're in the hub. You can talk to all these NPCs. So some NPCs will give some educational content, some will just make some funny jokes.
So you said the inspiration came from the Legend of Zelda remake. I guess once you get started, we'll really see that you've got dungeons and kind of that top-down angle perspective.
Yeah. So here you go to the first dungeon. I'll go there now. So you're in a safe zone, which you call boot camps, and then you can talk to NPCs, and they will give you some information about either the body or the game itself.
I think that's a really neat way to kind of get the education kind of portion of the game by talking to NPCs and giving you information.
Yeah, that's the way that really ties well into the game. That's kind of how Zelda gives you information about the game. So you'll be solving puzzles to go through the dungeon. Oh no.
Uh-oh.
So here you find some virus to fight. So these are the easy melee enemies.
Yeah. Are those kind of tannish colored things supposed to be like bones?
What was that?
Those tannish kind of rock things, are they kind of supposed to be like bones inside the body?
These things here?
Yeah.
Not really bones. I don't think they have a direct representation.
Yeah.
We just basically needed something to get in the way of the player.
That's fair.
that the game is based off of human body. How did you proceed about the research for the game?
So for the research, we used a book that I don't remember the name right now, but most of the knowledge came from that book. So one of the person in the team, they had a background in biology, and that was the book they used in their class. So that's the book we also used.
That's handy.
And we actually, yeah, and we also had I believe she was a 5th grade teacher, like elementary school teacher, that helped us with the information and the script. So basically a university book and a teacher.
Cool.
So here I got a map for the dungeon, so I can see my objective, which is the three green guys, which I can get keys, so I can get the boss key, which is the red guy. So the biggest thing about each dungeon is that you have to fight 3 mini bosses. I don't think I explained it before. In every mini boss, you get like a piece of a key, which we call it an antigen, and you piece all the antigens together to fight the boss, which is kind of like how your body deals with infection. It will fight virus and bacteria pretty much, and get pieces of it to understand how it works and make kind of a weapon to fight against it.
You mentioned like somebody on your team had a background in biology. Do you find that when you're making games with your teams, like their different backgrounds help in developing games?
Yeah. So yeah, in this case, having someone with a background in biology really helped a lot. But making games in general, I mean, at least in my opinion, if you can get knowledge from as many areas as possible, just do it. It really helps a lot.
So since this game is launched on Steam, did you encounter any troubles while uploading it or releasing it?
What do you mean for the release?
Yeah, the process of release, was it difficult or was it easier?
So releasing on Steam after you have the game, it's actually it's not really hard. You have to do a lot of image work because they have all the different image sizes and requirement for the store, for the workshop, for the community, things like that. But releasing itself, they make it fairly smooth process.
Yeah, I didn't think about all those different images that are on Steam to like on the Steam page. You got to make all those.
Yeah.
All different.
Yeah, and they also give you templates for each one of them, so it's just putting things together. Yeah, Steam helps a lot in releasing your game there.
Do you have any experience of shipping a game on a different platform like itch or anything else?
I have on itch and Play Store, I think. Yeah, Play Store, the one for Google.
Is it kind of like a similar process, or did they not help you as much as Steam?
So, if I remember correctly, Play Store, it's a little bit easier. I think it's kind of similar, but you just don't need as much images as Steam does. And each is pretty much I mean, honestly, you can do whatever you want on each.
Could you explain us about the whole development process of the game? How did you start and what were the troubles or problems that you encountered during the development?
Okay, so development started mid-November, I think, and we finished in March. A little bit over 4 months, and we used 1 extra month to polish and add stuff. Troubles we encountered. Yeah, so the biggest problem, hands down, the biggest problem was we wanted to make this game that happens inside the human body, but it cannot look gross, or it cannot look weird. So yeah, that was the biggest challenge on making something that looks kind of cute, kind of cartoony. And how we did that was basically trying different cell shading algorithms. First, we didn't have any cell shading, and then it was suggested by a member of the team because it could help with the visuals, and it really helped. So we tried, I believe we tried 5 different cell shading algorithms, and then for each algorithm we tried maybe 2 or 3 different sets of lighting, and we just went with what looked better. So it was very time consuming.
I think the cell shading really helps with the readability of all the motions in this game too.
Yeah, it's like I'm really happy with how the game looks. It was definitely a lot of work to get to this point, and I'm really happy with it.
Gil, since you are a developer, how would you advise on proceeding on developing such games?
Can you repeat the question?
Since you are a developer, how would you recommend proceeding on such games from the developer end?
Can you repeat it again? I didn't really get it.
Sorry. So,
Yeah.
since you were involved in the whole development process, how
Yeah.
would you recommend a developer to proceed with the development of such a game?
How would I recommend it?
Yeah.
That's a good question. So, you mean like an educational game or just a game in general or an adventure game?
An educational game, since they are different from
Yeah.
action and adventure games. So you have to have an element of education in it. So how would you proceed on about it? Recommend proceeding on about it.
So, I think when making an educational game, the biggest point is understanding what you want to talk about, which in this case is the immune system. So internally on Studio, we kind of made this immune system wiki, and then we went like, so what's the first dungeon going to talk about? What's the second dungeon going to talk about? What's the third dungeon going to talk about? And then before that, we wrote kind of an outline of specific questions that the game should answer, which is like elementary school questions about the immune system. We had maybe 4 or 5 of them. So the game was just a big effort to answer those questions using all the knowledge that we had. So I guess what I'm trying to say is just research, have documentation to back up everything you're saying and everything you want to say, and plan everything after it. Yeah, I think for game development, a lot of the answers will be either research or documentation. Okay, so that was, yeah.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, that was the first boss, and then we're back in the hub again. And then you can talk to all the NPCs again, and they are going to say different things.
What was the documentation process for this game like? As far as like, how long did you plan the game before you started actually like getting into code?
So I think we started around September. So I think 2 months before actually starting coding and developing anything. So the documentation was basically having a pitch, around 10 to 20 slides, I think it was, excluding the backlog. The backlog was longer. Up turning to the GDD, and the GDD ended up with about 60 pages, I think. And we also had the educational scripts, which should be maybe 10 to 15 pages. Let's see what else. I think that's it for documentation.
Since the whole development team was a team of students, how did you guys manage your time with the classes and other stuff going on in the studio?
Yeah, so in CelleC, everyone should work like 32 hours a week. And what we do is we plan since the beginning in a way that it makes sense for that amount of hours, if that makes sense. So it's like we're not going to add more stuff if the people don't, if the team doesn't have time to do it.
So basically, you scope appropriately, planning out exactly how many hours people have or should have to be able to work on it.
Yeah, pretty much. So in the second dungeon, you get a shield, which is supposed to represent your body learning to fight the infection. So you have a new tool to deal with enemies.
That's a neat way for the mechanics to mirror the story of it, basically, or the educational bit of it.
Yeah. We tried really hard to make mechanics also teach the player.
Yeah.
That's kind of why we have 3 mini bosses. That's why we have the shield and things like that. So the shield you can just block against those guys.
So how big was the whole development team? Or your human is sick?
So if I remember correctly, I believe it was 20 people. So it was me as creative director and programmer, 1 producer, 2 other developers, 8 artists, 4 designers, 3 writers, and 1 sound engineer, I think. I don't know if that adds up. But last time I checked, it was about 20.
Okay. I don't think anybody's gonna check you on your math.
I hope not. But I think it is 20. Okay, so this is the hardest puzzle in the game.
So how long did it take for you guys to come up with puzzles?
So I think it varies a lot. I'm not a level designer, so I cannot really speak for the process. But I believe so. Dungeon 1 and Dungeon 2 was made by the same person, and I believe it took um, a little bit more than 2 months. So maybe 1 or 2 puzzles a day, I think. Because a lot of making a puzzle is just having an idea, trying it out, and then getting as much feedback as possible to see if the puzzle really works or if it's not too difficult. So having to get that feedback slowed down the process a little bit.
What was it like doing that kind of like rapid prototyping kind of phases?
I definitely would like to have prototyped more, I think. But yeah, I think the first month of the game was pretty much prototyping mechanics and see what works and what doesn't. So we ended up with the player just having like one attack and one like just single action of blocking. But we tried things like perfect blocking. So if an enemy shoot you and if you timed correctly, you would reflect it. We didn't put that in the final game. We had planned other different types of attacks, but we just went to a very simple, just one attack and one block.
Yeah.
So the puzzles were also very rapidly prototyped. Let me see what else. Yeah, that's generally the way I like to think about game development. Just try things and see what works, and just throw all the other things away.
Yeah, that's fair. Do you think that you were able to get more features into the game or more levels by streamlining the player's actions down to just blocking and attacking?
Yeah, it made things definitely, I don't want to say easier, but I mean it was kind of easier because you have to, yeah, you have to. I don't want to. I think I'm hearing myself.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't. Anyway, so cutting down on the player actions, you have to worry about less things, and balancing the enemies is not as hard as if you have a lot of actions.
Yeah.
So making the player simple, I think it actually allowed us to focus more on enemies and the levels, which was I think it was a great thing.
I think this is the coolest puzzle in the game.
Yeah, that's also a hard one.
Yeah, like having to time those lasers is really
Yeah.
The music of the game is also quite nice and relaxing.
Yeah.
The what?
The music.
Yeah.
You said you only had one sound person on your team, right?
Yeah.
Did they make the music and all the sound effects?
No, it was mostly sound effects. All the music is from music packs in the internet, and we also use some packs for sound effects.
So, if you had any more time to add anything to the game, what stuff would you add or change?
I would definitely add more narrative content, maybe have a more fleshed out story, and add more educational content. So add more characters, add more cutscenes, just more things. So having more narrative content on the game.
Do you ever think that you would reach a point where like you would count this game as, or any game you make, as like completely done?
I don't think so. There's always something you want to change.
For the boss mechanics, how much time did it take you to finalize them? Since each boss has a unique mechanic, so what all did you experiment before coming to finalize these designs?
So I think the first boss, this was the first boss that was made. I think it actually took like a sprint, like 2 weeks. I think the designers that were making it, they didn't have a lot of experience with AI in Unreal. So it was making the boss and also a learning process. And after this one, I think the other two bosses took maybe 3 or 4 days after they were already familiar on how to create the behaviors.
That's interesting. Like, that's a significant time save from the first to the others.
Yeah. So that was the second boss. Something that happens in the hub after you go through a dungeon, you have these corners here, which you're able to see like puzzle mechanics that you had on the previous dungeon, which is supposed to represent that your body now knows about those things and like, have the knowledge about it.
It also kind of serves like trophies to remember like the levels that you beat.
Yeah. So it kind of teaches the player, but also kind of gives that reward that you're making a change in the world.
Yeah. And you said all of these NPCs say something different after you beat each level?
Yeah. Yeah, so this is a line, for example, that it's kind of educational but also funny at the same time. And this is something that I really wanted to have in the game, that I really like to have more.
Yeah. I like that. What would you say is like your target audience for this game?
Yeah, the target audience, we thought of people around 13.
So kind of like middle school age?
Yeah. So I'll just go for the third dungeon now.
Yeah.
So, what made you interested in making games?
Me, myself.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I always liked coding. So I started maybe 8 years ago. But my first contact with coding was maybe when I was like 11 or 12. So I always knew that I wanted to do something with coding and programming. So either engineering or computer science, which is what I ended up with for my bachelor's. But it was also at the same time, I always liked creating things and being creative. So when I was younger, I always liked drawing, playing games, and things like that. So games is just that middle ground between something very technical and something very, very creative, very artistic.
Yeah, it's a cool way to combine like all of your interests.
Yeah.
What would you say is the most complex part of the whole game?
About the game or the game development.
Uh, like the game as well as the whole development process, considering design, programming, art, what would be the most complex part of it?
Let me see. I never thought about it actually. I mean, I think the whole creating a game thing is a very complex process because it's so you have to talk with 3 different disciplines, try a lot of things. So I really don't know how to like choose a complex one.
Okay.
I mean, because I'm a programmer, I want to say that coding is really complex. In my free time, I'm trying to create an engine and studying like tech stuff, and it's really complicated.
Yeah, definitely. See, you
Yeah.
say that you would say the most complicated part is coding because you're a developer. I say that that's the most complicated part because I'm not.
So maybe programming is the complex part. I don't really know. Because also during my masters I got really to understand design more, and the more I understand it, more I see like how there's a lot of things that I never thought about before.
How much time did it take to have the animations for the game?
It was a lot. So I really like animations and effects. So as a creative director, every time that I could have animation or effects for something, I asked for it. So I'm trying to remember. I think animations were being made maybe for almost 2 months, because there's a lot of animations in the game.
Yeah. There's a lot of effects too, now that you mention it.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
I think I messed up. Oh, it worked.
What was your favorite part of making this game? Or did we already ask that?
I think so. Early prototyping is always fun because you have to see something different every day. And I like to say that I'm almost dying. I like to say that I have a shiny toy syndrome.
Yeah.
So I like seeing different things every day. After that, I think the most fun part was when things started to come together, and I could see like the game going through the dungeons, all the animations in place, all the effects in place. I think that was the best part. Also with the cell shading,
Oh,
basically
yeah.
seeing how things were finalized.
Yeah, because you mentioned you went through a bunch of different iterations on the cell shading.
Yeah,
So, like, finally getting that nailed down.
yeah, getting the final look of the cell shading was. It felt like a lot of progress was done, and it kind of is because, I mean, the entire game is how you're going to see the entire game. I don't know what's happening here.
Could you explain us the production aspects of the game? So how did the production begin? How did it go? And any risks that you planned that occurred which weren't planned off?
So production, so kind of like how we see in school, it started as with a oh my god, we started making the GDD and a master task list. I want to say that halfway through the project, the master task list was completely scratched off because we changed so much and a lot of things didn't go as planned. So after that, I think we planned more like every sprint, every two weeks by time. And yeah, I think that's pretty much how we went. At first we had a plan, but it changed a lot, and then we started planning like every 2 weeks.
That's pretty interesting. So you went from, like, kind of having everything laid out, and then you saw how, like, that wasn't going to plan, so then you changed it?
Yeah, I always try to adapt to whatever situation that comes. But I mean, it wasn't easy. A lot of times people were asking things or asking for tasks, and I didn't have the answer because as creative director, it was my failure in planning.
By that, do you mean, like, they were running out of tasks because you hadn't planned enough?
Yeah, especially with artists.
Yeah. I guess you could kind of say that that's a good problem to have. They're finishing stuff faster than you thought.
Yeah. That was one of the reasons why we could have so many effects. Because the artist that made all the effects, he finished the task like really early, and I was just like, make more effects, I guess. I mean, that's just how I see game development. You can never have enough effects, sounds.
Yeah, it's all about that player feedback.
Yeah.
Since you come from a different background, how did it feel to work with a team of different places with a lot of diversity?
How did it feel?
Yeah.
I think it's always interesting to see how different backgrounds, or just because someone is from another place, how it changes their perspective on things. And on games, having different perspectives is always a great thing. I would say it overall helps a lot.
So coming back to the team, what would you say to other people or teams on how to get together the coordination before beginning the development process?
Can you repeat the question, please?
Okay, so coming back to the team part, what would you suggest other teams on uh, doing before beginning the development process of the game?
What have I?
What would
What
you
did I?
suggest?
What did I say to the team before it started?
What would you suggest other teams
Suggest.
do to
Oh.
start a development process?
So, the biggest thing that I would like to have done different in the process is have planned more, having more documentation. After going through this game, documentation is something that I really value. And also accounting for QA, like actually testing the game and finding bugs and those kind of things.
Yeah, how much time was spent on QA?
Pretty much zero. So QA was basically me doing product reviews once a week, I think, and playing through the game. But because I played the game so much, I just did what I expected the player to do. So a lot of bugs went through. But as other people on the team started playing the game when it was almost finished, we started catching a lot of bugs.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, just by playtesting you can get a lot of bugs. But having QA planned and do it frequently, it will help even more.
Yeah. Did you ever have anybody like on the team try to break the game while playtesting it? Like just trying to run into corners or something to see what would happen?
Yeah, that happened a lot. And you can find a lot of bugs that way. Oh, that was the last boss.
Oh yeah.
So yeah, now there's an ending cutscene explaining kind of what your body tried to do after an infection is gone. So after your body pretty much wins the battle against an infection, the white blood cells pretty much kill themselves, but you try to make it sound cute, so your character goes to retirement.
Oh, that's neat.
Yeah.
Right.
So yeah, that's the game. We played through the entire thing.
Yeah, wow. Well,
Any other questions?
I can't think of any. Deep, do you have any more questions?
Uh, like you explained most of the things during the gameplay, so I don't have any.
Cool.
So then, this concludes today's Student Game Expo. We can continue the conversation about the game in our Discord server, which is linked in the top left corner. Thanks to Guillerme for showing off this game, and thanks to everyone who was watching. Bye.
All right. Thank you.